IIMK BMS AT, which is the entrance exam for BMS program at IIM Kozhikode, is going to be conducted on 22nd of June 2025. We are coming up with a crash course wherein we will be covering the whole syllabus that is going to be asked in the exam. This crash course is going to have 30 sessions and each session will be delivered to you on this YouTube channel itself daily at 9 pm. After this crash course is done, we will be providing you with the workshops that will definitely help you train for the exam. As of now, we know that the exam is going to have only QA section and VA section. There is no LR section asked in the exam. But the paper pattern of the exam is not known. As soon as we come to know about the paper pattern, we will definitely deliver 3 to 5 mock tests to you guys as well. So make sure that you subscribe to this channel and inform your friends that this course has started and they can benefit from it. And now let us start learning.
Hey guys, welcome to yet another video of verbal ability. Today we are going to take a look at para jumbles and odd man out. Now, before we begin with this particular set of questions, we need to understand some basics regarding this particular type of questions. So, the very first thing that we have to understand is this forms a part of verbal ability, right? So, for most exams, this is a part of verbal ability and it will come along with many other vocab-based questions, so on and so forth. It tests your ability to understand context and to understand the structures that logically follow. Okay, so logical sequence of structures. Okay, when we speak about para-based questions or paragraph-based questions, there are several types in it. First is para jumbles. Second is odd man out. These are most commonly repeated types. You'll see more number of these questions. Okay, next is para summary. And the next one is para completion. We'll be dealing with these two today. When we speak of para jumbles and odd man out, they are basically a part of similar type of question. The task that you're supposed to do with them is slightly different. Okay, so when we talk about para jumbles typically have 4, 5 or 6 sentences which form a paragraph, but they are given to you in a manner which is not sequential. So your task here is to basically arrange them in a proper sequence. When we talk about para jumbles, there is a subtype in para jumbles. This is the common subtype where you have 4, 5, 6 sentences given to you and you have to rearrange all of them. Another type is 5 to 6 sentences and you have to rearrange only 4 sentences amongst them. Okay, for example, one subtype, these are basically called paradanglers. And what exactly happens here is either the opening or the ending is fixed. Usually this scenario doesn't come in picture a lot. Okay, or both opening and endings are fixed. This is the most common type. So these are going to be fixed. What does it mean? That this statement is given to you. This statement is given to you, and then there are options here. These are the jumbled up statements. So that is the idea when we talk about paradanglers. So para jumbles basically has these two types. One where there is no clue as to how the paragraph is beginning and how it is ending, and another where they can give you some hint by fixing 1 or 2 sentences. Typically, these sentences are identified with numerals. They'll be given numerals as markers, whereas those sentences that you have to rearrange, those will be given alphabetical ordinals. Okay, now what we have to do is, when we talk about para jumbles, we have to understand that this is one type of question that is most frequently asked. In some exams, it can be in theta format. Type in the answer, so there will most likely not be an option in many exams. Okay, so theta means type in the options, so you have to make out the sequence and you have to type it in. Okay, which means that if anything goes wrong in a para jumble of even 6 sentences, you are not going to get any marks. But one positive thing about these questions is that you are not going to have any penalty for it. So no negative marking. Okay, no negative marking for these ones. When we talk about some other exams where para jumbles are involved, there can be examinations where they are giving you options. Okay, options are given. Or there could be some other exams where you have to make the sequence and there are several questions based on that sequence. So it could be like, which is the 6th statement, which is the 4th statement, which is the 5th statement. So basically on the basis of one para jumble question, you may actually be able to score marks for 5 or 6 questions. So it becomes very important for us to not make a mistake here. Okay, so initially you might feel that you're taking a lot of time to solve these questions. It is expected. So please don't favor speed over accuracy. In para jumbles, accuracy is of utmost importance. It is going to be a time-taking question, but if you want to rush through it, then most likely it will not be correct. Okay. Now let's come to the other question type that we are going to take a look at today: odd man out. Odd man out is sort of like an extension of para jumbles. Okay. Because once you understand how to handle para jumbles, odd man out type of questions don't really bother you a lot. You're able to basically work with them. Okay. Now let's take a look at what exactly happens here. So when we talk about odd man out, what exactly is the question type? Here also you will be dealing with 5 to 6 sentences. These 5 to 6 sentences will be given to you in a jumbled manner. And what you have to do is, basically you have to find out a sentence that does not belong as a part of that particular paragraph. So you have to find a statement that is odd as per the given context. Okay. So a very important skill for both para jumbles and odd man out is that you should be able to understand the central theme of the paragraph. Okay. And you should also have some idea about the structure of a paragraph. When we say structure of a paragraph, usually a paragraph is written to convey one single point. So let's see what are the markers of a paragraph, important features of a paragraph. It will convey one single point. So if you are not able to understand which point the paragraph is trying to convey, then you have not understood the context at all. Okay. Next, it will most likely give you some hint with respect to the logical flow, because usually when we talk about structures of paragraph, we usually see that there are two structures. One is the normal structure, okay, in which a broad generalization is given and the topic narrows down with every single sentence. Okay, so for example, you can start off like an essay by introducing some idea or something, and then start giving some examples, maybe, or maybe talking about some particular features of that particular idea. Okay, so this is called a normal structure, in which there's a generalized statement that is introducing the idea of the paragraph to you, and then you're narrowing it down to more and more specific statements. Okay, then there can be another structure which basically starts with, say, an example or an event. Okay, a particular case study, example, or event, and then they keep on increasing the scope of it. Okay. Now the increase in scope could be, say, in terms of geography. For example, there is a small instance in a village. Okay, say a small instance of communal tension in a village. Okay, and now that particular small instance is projected to, say, state level, then national level. So if you have these type of similar geographical terms, then obviously arranging them in some kind of order will give you the most appropriate flow of the paragraph. Okay, this is one of the ideas that you can implement while trying to rearrange. So these two structures can be used. Mostly this structure will be there only for 5% cases, and this is the most common structure. Okay. So introducing an idea and then talking about more and more specific things related to that idea are basically is basically the way most paragraphs are commonly written. That's why we need to understand the central theme. Okay, if we understand what the central theme is, we should be able to create some kind of a picture in our mind, and then we have to implement the strategy that I'll be giving to you in the class, so that you can solve the para jumble. Okay, so once we understand this, what we have to do, there's a very simple strategy for para jumbles that we have to follow. One, we have to read through and try to understand the context. ठीक है, एक बार आप पढ़ लीजिए पूरा और किस चीज से रिलेटेड है वो आप समझ लीजिए. Try to understand the context. Second, what you're going to do, you're going to basically observe keywords, ठीक है, and try to associate them with each other in order to understand the flow that could possibly be there among between the sentences. Okay. Third, you are going to test for grammar. So there are some key rules in grammar that you have to test for. And fourth, once you have a rough sequence, please read it again so that you are able to understand whether your sequence is right or wrong. If anything seems off, please check again. Maybe you need to jumble some particular statements. Okay. Now, when we talk about keywords, which keywords are we talking about? And grammar mein kaun se rules hai that we have to basically think of. So let's discuss that. Keywords can be categorized into several parts. Okay. First, you can say these are topic specific keywords. So whatever the topic of the paragraph is, there will be some keywords related to that topic, and you have to make a note of those keywords and try to understand the interplay between them or relationship between them. Okay. So what should come first? What should come next? So if suppose one particular keyword is basically say a car, okay, one particular keyword is car, and then you are discussing about the parts of the car. So obviously the statement introducing the idea of the car should come first. Then maybe you're talking about steering wheel and changes in engines and engine and all, or advancement in engine and all, right? But they all belong to car, right? So most likely, if you have similar words from a similar category rather, then you have to put them in the most logical manner. That will kind of create some kind of a hierarchy. Okay, it could be a bottom to top approach from where you're talking about a specific thing and projecting the idea to a larger extent in increasing scope, or it could be about basically a larger idea and then about specific things. But in any case, there has to be some kind of a hierarchy. Okay, so these will be the topic specific keywords. Then there are some grammar oriented keywords. Okay, or rather, instead of saying grammar, let's say there are some keywords which show similarity between the content given. Okay, so these are the words like and, or, also. They also give some additional information. Okay, So and or also, in addition to. So whenever these words are used, first of all, something has already been mentioned. Okay, so there has to be one sentence that is mentioning something, and the second sentence that these words are indicating, or these words are those sentences are basically following the first statement or the statement given before it. Okay, so usually you will see that you will not find statements starting from these words. Okay, so opening statements most likely will not be starting from these words. So that is the idea. Okay, next. There are some words that can show contradiction. These words are but, yet, although, okay, and etc. However, although, so on and so forth. Okay, so these are the words that basically show contradiction. Now you can only contradict something that has already been stated or that is already known, right? So most likely these words are also not going to form the part of opening statement, unless and until that statement is a complex sentence in which already some bit of information is given. Okay, so mostly there will be one statement before the statement carrying these words. There's just one exception, although can be used in a slightly different format, and therefore a statement with although that can become an opening statement is possible. Okay, but mostly you'll see that these words will not form the opening statement because they need some kind of reference before they are to be used. When we talk about the next bit, we talk about numbers. Okay, numbers are important because when you take a look at numbers, you typically understand how the flow should be. Now, this term numbers does not only mean first, second, third, fourth. Okay, obviously, those ordinals have to be used. Ordinals are first, second, third, fourth, और उनके cardinals क्या होते हैं 1 2 3 4. ठीक है, cardinals are numbers and ordinals are basically positions. तो अगर ordinals दिए हैं फर्स्टली, सेकेंडली, ठीक है, तो ये ordinals हो सकते हैं जिनके बेसिस पे आप कुछ एक स्ट्रक्चर आप प्रिडिक्ट कर सकते हैं. Second is what? Second is next, lastly, these kind of words, which also indicate some kind of flow. Okay, next, in addition to, and all these can also form a part of this group. Okay, if you are taking a look at putting statements in a structure or in a numbered manner. So next, lastly, last but not the least, these kind of phrases, they become important. And the very last bit that we must take a look at, these keywords basically have to do with timeline. Okay, so they and numbers can have a very good interplay between them, लेकिन timeline से related जो words होते हैं जहाँ पे आपको in the past, earlier, previously, these kind of words are there. So here you have to understand how the flow will be, क्योंकि जब आपको ये words दिखेंगे तो हो सकता है कि इनके पहले कुछ एक reference दिया हो आपको, and then they are talking about कि अभी now people are eating a lot of junk food. However, in the past it was a different kind of scenario, right? People used to cook homemade food and that's why they were more healthy. So ऐसे अगर किसी टाइप का इस टाइप का कोई अगर पैराग्राफ है तो आपको ये देखना है कि टाइमलाइन कैसे चल रही है. यूजुअली क्या होता है व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट टाइमलाइन, we prefer going streamlined because in a paragraph there is not a lot of scope of going back. Okay, आपको मिलेंगे 5 to 6 sentences. ठीक है, तो आपको एक मतलब फ्यूचर में ले जाके फिर से पास्ट में कोई रेफरेंस देना ये पॉसिबल नहीं होता है एक पैराग्राफ में. कहीं कहीं पे बहुत रेयर केसेस में हो भी जाएगा ऐसे, लेकिन आपको दूसरे मार्कर्स यूज करके वो समझ में भी आ जाएगा. बट अगर हम मोस्टली देखें तो एक स्ट्रीमलाइंड अप्रोच रहेगा व्हेन इट कम्स टू टाइमलाइन. ठीक है, एक स्ट्रीमलाइंड अप्रोच हमको समझ में आना चाहिए. ये हो गए दो टाइप के कीवर्ड्स. थर्ड टाइप ऑफ कीवर्ड is basically grammatical aspect of it. So grammar अगर हमें टेस्ट करना है तो ग्रामर में हम क्या टेस्ट करेंगे? The most important keywords that we have to look for are pronouns and articles. When we talk about pronouns and articles, pronouns will always be used along with either a definition which basically justifies the use of pronoun or after nouns, after introduction of nouns rather. ठीक है, अब nouns अगर आपने already introduce कर दिए हैं तो ही आप उसके लिए pronoun use करोगे. You'll not directly say he was going to the market in a paragraph. You can't open with it. Okay, especially if you have a noun talking about who that person is. Okay, तो ये भी कैसे होगा कि अगर मान लो you're talking about say सरिता, ठीक है, सरिता was going to the market. She was going to buy some fruit for herself as she was not feeling very well. She was working very hard the past couple of months, and that's why she felt that she is fatigued. Okay, suppose this is the paragraph. So यहाँ पे you first have to introduce Sarita, and only then you can use she for her, right? First you have to use Sarita, and only then you have to use she for her. Okay, you can't say she was going to the market, she was feeling fatigued, and that's why Sarita was going to buy some fruits. It is odd. Usually in paragraph ki structure mein, usually you will not see such kind of constructions. Usually this is basically kind of like a grammatical rule ki before you have introduced nouns, you cannot use pronouns for them. Okay, kahan pe you can use such constructions? Since she was leaving for home, Sarita thought she should buy some sweets for her parents. ठीक है, अब यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, एक ही सेंटेंस है, आपने प्रोनाउन पहले यूज कर लिया सिंस शी वाज लिविंग फॉर होम कॉमा सरिता थॉट. सो प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंस. If you are using a pronoun and the sentence ends without introduction to the noun, then it means that your sentence structure is wrong. If you basically see a pronoun before the noun, but within that statement that noun is mentioned, and if this happens to be the very first statement, then such a usage is allowed. Okay, इसी सिर्फ केस में pronoun can come before noun. Another weird type of sentence construction or slightly unusual type of sentence construction could be where there is no pronoun only. There is no noun only. So they are using only pronouns to indicate things. Okay, ऐसा भी हो सकता है. तो सिर्फ उस केस में आप directly pronouns use कर सकते हैं क्योंकि there is no mention of noun, so it is not kind of like backtracking from the rule. Okay, now let's take a look at the article. Undefined the is not allowed. Okay, what does it mean? The is used to talk about universal things that are universally known. For example, the earth, the sun, the moon, right? If I say moon, you are not going to think of Jupiter's moon, right? If I say the sun, you are only going to think of sun in our solar system. So these are things that are universally known and agreed upon, right? So in this case, you can use the directly or the directly. But what is an undefined the? If I say the coffee mug broke, the coffee mug broke, will it make a lot of sense to you? The coffee mug broke. It will naturally ask the question. You will naturally ask the question, which one? Because I'm saying the coffee mug broke. That means I'm talking about some specific thing. Okay. So when we talk about the or when we use the for something, that idea has to be already conveyed, or that topic has to already be introduced to the reader. So you can only use the when you have already introduced the reader to the idea of the noun that you're going to use the for, or the idea that you're going to use the for. Okay, which means the can only be a known entity or a universal entity. It also means that if you are using the with something, and this is the opening statement, whatever this thing is has to be defined here. Okay, in that same sentence only. If there is a noun and you are using the with it, and that noun has not already been introduced, That means the statement having the plus the noun has to come before, has to come after this noun has been introduced. Okay. And usually the marker of this introduction will be a non-definite article, which is a or an. So if you want to introduce something, you will usually go with a or an. Okay. So basically, if I say a coffee mug broke, okay, and it was, and the mug was a gift from my mother. A coffee mug broke, and the mug was a gift from my mother. The mug. So here I'm introducing the idea of a coffee mug with an indefinite article. So you know that I'm not talking about something specific. And here in the next sentence, I'm saying the mug broke. So I'm referring to this very same mug. Okay. So that becomes clear to you when I'm introducing you with an indefinite article, and then I'm using a definite article to indicate to that very entity. So this is the basic of how we are going to attempt para jumbles. Okay. When we follow these rules, we will be able to do things in a much better manner. So that's the basic theory for para jumbles. There is some addition in odd man out, which we will come to when we discuss odd man out type of questions. Okay, guys. So let's start the discussion of the para jumble questions and the odd man out. Many political pundits, the very first question, you can pause the video here and solve and get your answer first, and then unpause the video and you can listen to the explanation. Many political pundits prophesied that such a patchwork nation can only remain democratic for 15 to 20 years. India's diversity and expanse were bound to present a formidable challenge for the leaders of India. Okay. So many political pundits, such a patchwork. Okay. Were bound to present a formidable challenge for the leaders of India. Okay, but this does not seem like an introduction to something. Maybe it could be an opening statement, so just keep it as it is. When India got its independence in 1947, the world looked at it with caution and awe, owing to the messy situation India was left with. Now, this seems like an opening statement. It is talking about some event, and the other two statements that I've read before seem like they're somewhat related to this particular event. So maybe C could be an opening statement. When all the bits and pieces were brought together, India declared itself a nation. Much apprehension prevailed about its stability. Okay, so basically, when all the bits and pieces were brought together and India declared itself a nation, much apprehension prevailed about its stability. This could also be an opening statement. However, if you take a look at these three statements, it feels like everything started with India's independence. So as per the timeline, independence should come first, then the other problems with it, and then what the pundits were speaking, because this is never going to be the opening statement. So the correct answer here should be B, CV, DA. If you take a look at it, if C is your opener, right? Here they are talking about the challenge. That challenge was overcome, but even so, some people were doubting us. Okay, so that is the logic of this particular paragraph. Let's move on to the next one. They are usually thought to be a product of tectonic movements causing convergence and uplift of the land masses involved. Now we know that undefined pronouns cannot be there in the opening statement. So this is not your opening statement. Of these, most common ones are fold mountains. Of these, again, we don't know what they are talking about. Okay, typically found on the left side of the continental landmass. So maybe they are trying to tell us about different types of something, and mountains most likely. And this is the first name in that list, most likely. Based on how they have been formed, again, not an opening statement. The mountains are divided into several categories such as fold, volcanic, residual, etc. Okay. There are many ways mountain and mountain ranges have been formed and continue to form. Okay. So this seems like the opening statement. They are talking about mountain ranges and mountains. Okay. So opener should be D. If you eliminate the options, you have D, right? Now let's see whether D A follows or D C follows. Okay. Based on how they have been formed, the mountains are divided into several categories like this. Okay, fine. What else could be the answer? Mm, if we are not able to understand what exactly, they are referring to, they are usually thought to be product of tectonic movements causing convergence and uplift of land masses involved. And here in this C statement, they are saying that fold volcanic residual. So most likely they are talking about different types of mountains. So D should follow, or D should be followed by C. Okay. And here most of these of these could mean these several categories. Okay. And fold mountains is what is associated with this they. Okay. So we have to try and justify all the pronouns that they are using. So here, of these, the most common ones are fold mountains. So fold mountains seems like a category, okay? And they are, this statement has to come after they have mentioned that there are several categories. So B should come after C, D should be the opening statement, and A should be the last statement. So correct answer should be D. Next question. Please pause the video here if you wish to. Next question. If anything, these traits are actually discouraged by classrooms, which limit the scope of practical application and create the box the size of a blackboard. Now they are talking about these traits. So we are looking for some traits or qualities. Okay. And this is not your opener. Much has been said about Indian education system and its inability to foster innovation, curiosity, and creativity. Okay, fine. So this could be an opening statement because it is a very neutral statement. It could be the topic of the discussion. So just go on reading and try to see whether it is the opener. However, while these allegations may hold some merit, they turn a blind eye. Allegations. Are these allegations? They seem like allegations, right? That much has been said about Indian education system and its inability to do so. So maybe C and D are related. We don't know. Okay. They turn a blind eye to the fact that Indians are well known for their talents across the world. So maybe these are contradictory statements coming together. Okay. But let's see the others too, so that nothing is left out and nothing feels odd logically. Okay. So it is often stressed how restricting student it is often stressed how restricting students to theory leads to rote learning and inability to find solutions to real life problems. Restricting students to rote learning, maybe it is somewhat related to the one that is being talked about in B, okay, but we don't know. So we'll take a look at it in a different manner. Let's read through first. Whether this is a result of cultural expectations in India or of degrading quality of academic excellence in Western countries is the question to ponder upon. This seems like a comparison between Western India, and the entire paragraph seems to be talking about Indian education system and how it prohibits or how it facilitates something. Okay, so we can say that since the question is a little bit long and we are not able to conclude anything very easily, we'll just start looking for the first opening statement. Okay, B seems like a clear opener because no other statement is correlating with it, correlating with the paragraph or forms like kind of like a theme. So maybe we have to check amongst these two. Okay. Now what is the difference? BA, BCE and BA, ECD. Okay, fine. So if you put E somewhere in between, okay, then C and D should be related to E. So let's see whether this is a result of cultural expectation or of degrading quality of academic excellence in Western countries is a question to ponder upon. Fine. But what? What does this talk about? Does it talk about C? However, while these allegations may hold some merit, they turn a blind eye to the fact that Indians are well known for their talent across the world. Okay. It is often stressed how restricting students to theory leads to rote learning and inability to find the solutions. So the sequence ECP does not do much for us. Okay, let's try out the sequence DCE. It is often stressed how restricting students to theory leads to rote learning and the inability to find solutions to real life problems. Okay. However, these allegations. So now these allegations could also be about this, right? That's restricting does so many things. So these allegations can also be about these. So, however, these allegations may hold some merit. They turn a blind eye to the fact that Indians are well known for their talent across the world. Fine. And whether this is a result, what? The fact that Indians are known for their talent across the world. Okay. So this is related to this fact. So whether this fact is a result of cultural expectation in India or of degrading quality of academic excellence in Western countries is a question to ponder upon. So E is your ending statement and B is your opener. Okay, because in B they have spoken about India's education system, what are its lacunas, then countered those lacunas and spoken about a global reach. So India to global. एक तो ये general like specific to general जैसा उल्टा जा रहा है, right? Increasing geographical expanse. Plus, first they are talking about education system and its problems. Then they are countering by saying that maybe they are not such big problems, and then they are giving a comparison between where seemingly the problem is not present and where the problem is present. So our final answer is this. Let's move on to the next question. Please pause the video here and take a look at the question. Now, let's read through the question and try to understand what idea it is representing and what kind of structure could there possibly be. So once you identify an opening statement or possible opening statements, you have to take a look at the probable structure there could be. Okay. So without such proof, the argument can be considered a biased opinion fraught with logical fallacies. Without such proofs, the argument can be considered a biased opinion without fraught with logical fallacies. It typically does not leave much scope for those who may want to poke holes at the logic and reasoning it presents. We don't know what it is about. So such proof means there is some previous reference. B also does not make sense. Hence, if arguments are to be made, ensure their infallibility and argue away, dear people. Now this seems like an ending statement. Okay, it seems like they are giving reasoning behind something and this seems like an ending statement, but we'll take a look at it. ठीक है, इसको एक आप सोच सकते हैं कि एंडिंग स्टेटमेंट होगा, ओपनर तो नहीं है तो इसको कैंसिल कर देते हैं क्योंकि हेंस आया हुआ है. तो अगर हेंस आया है तो पहले वो कुछ आपको आर्ग्यूमेंट्स देंगे, उसके बाद ही वो हेंस बोलेंगे ना, हेंस प्रूव दस प्रूव. सो यू बेसिकली हैव टू प्रूव समथिंग बिफोर यू से हेंस प्रूव, राइट? The merit of an argument depends on the fact and figures one can provide to support it. The merit of an argument depends on the fact and figures one can provide to support it. Okay. A sound argument can prove its ground under intense scrutiny and also has innate reasoning to nullify doubts cast. Okay. So these two seem like an opening statement. Let's see. Do you have an option with D? Yes. Do you have an option with E? Yes. Two options with E. So we can say that B is a paragraph opening with B is absolutely not a possibility here, right? Now let's talk about what exactly it uh, talks about. It talks about the art of giving arguments or art of making arguments. Okay, so typically does not leave much scope for those who may want to poke holes at the logic and reasoning it presents. What doesn't? The argument doesn't leave that scope. Okay. Facts and figures one can provide. I think this is associated with this most likely. Okay. A sound argument can hold its ground under intense scrutiny and also has innate reasoning to nullify doubts cast. Okay. E should be followed by B. This is what I feel in the preliminary read. Okay. And C seems like an ending statement. So let's see where these two fit. Can this be an opener? The merit of an argument depends on facts and figures one can provide to support it. So it has some resonance with this. So I feel that D should be followed by A because facts and figures are nothing but proofs. So they have used good synonyms to confuse you a little bit. Okay. Without such a proof, the argument can be considered a biased opinion fraught with logical fallacies, failure. Okay. So they are talking about what exactly? So basically, that is the idea. So you can say that DA forms a group, EB forms a group. Okay. Now, please try to understand that there are three groups that we have. When we are not able to find a single flow, then we must go ahead with this. Okay. We have to make different groups, and then we have to understand whether it resonates or not. Okay. So what you have to do is try to rearrange group 1, group 2, and group 3 as they make sense. Okay, as they make some logical sense. Okay, so try to read whether E and A seem like statements that can come after each other. Without such proof, the argument can be considered a biased opinion fraught with logical fallacies. Okay, so a sound argument can hold its ground. So here they are talking about features of what an unsound argument is, and here they are talking about how sound arguments can basically hold their ground. So that is the idea. Okay. So correct answer should be D, A, E, B, and C sounds like the ending statement. If you have any doubt, you can just simply read the entire sequence. So the correct answer should be D, A, E, B, C. This is the next question. Please take a look at this. Let's discuss this one. Many flagship policies such as midday meal schemes, right to education, Indradhanush vaccination program and so on are pivotal in breaking the cycle. We don't know which one, so not an opening statement. Many factors such as educational level, nutritional level, addiction are responsible for the continued propagation of poverty. Okay, this could be an opening statement because the used here is justified. They're talking about a cycle of poverty or a propagation of poverty, right? Next, cycle of poverty is a concept that talks about generational curses of low income and fewer privileges, which in turn pave the way for a poor next generation. Okay, so cycle of poverty is a concept that talks about generational curses of low income and fewer privileges, which in turn pave the way for a poor next generation. Here they are actually describing one concept, and usually definitions and descriptions are openers. Okay, so this is a possible opener. So you can take a look at the options. You have only C and D as possible opener. So let's see whether D is an opener. Though seemingly personal in nature, most of these factors can be overcome by institutional and social support. These factors. Now they are talking about some factors. So we know कि यहाँ पे B में कुछ factors उन्होंने बोले हैं. So these factors cannot be in the opening statement. So it should be C and D form a group. Okay. Now D is talking about these same factors and they are talking about a solution. So the flow of the paragraph has to be description or basically introduction to an idea or a problem, then talking about what causes the problem. Okay. additional information about the problem, right? They are discussing two such factors. Okay, यहाँ पे C में opener में भी वो कुछ चीजें बोल रहा है और B में भी कुछ चीजें बोल रहा है. Though seemingly personal in nature, most of these factors can be overcome by institutional and social support, right? They can be overcome by institutional and social support. And what are such social support systems in India? That has been given. So problem, some description of it, generalized solutions, and then specific things that we are doing to solve them. So this is the structure of this particular paragraph. Let's move on to the next question. Without this struggle between art and reality, what should be and what is, progress cannot be expected. This struggle, what should be and what is. So this could be referring to this one. So let's see if we think of this referring to this one, this particular bit of statement, do we get the idea? Without this struggle between art and reality, what should be and what is, progress cannot be expected. It still feels that this talks about something else. It talks about some particular struggle that they have mentioned before. So let's take a look at the rest of the paragraph. While philosophy ponders upon elusive aspects of mankind and society, art brings them to life and presents a picture of truth. This could be an opener. This could very well be an opener. They are comparing philosophy and art. So maybe, let's see. Precisely because of this struggle, art and philosophy are almost intertwined and inseparable. Okay. So precisely because of this struggle, which struggle? We don't know. It is the duty of art to challenge the boundaries of human imagination and broaden perspectives of the populace. Okay, so here it seems like they are only talking about art. Here they are talking about two concepts. Here they are talking about two concepts. And here they are also talking about art. Okay, so it seems like a pretty distributed kind of thing. Now, it seems like this could be an opener talking about art, and maybe they are talking about some kind of struggle. So let's see. You might not find similar words, but you will find some connotations. And we have not seen E yet. So they flow contiguously, seamlessly, transitioning to each other in a blink of eye. अब ये दो लोगों के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, मतलब दो चीजों के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. तो basically they're talking about art and philosophy. Okay, so it feels like E could follow C. Precisely because of this struggle, art and philosophy are almost intertwined, inseparable. They follow contiguously, so they are emphasizing on this particular aspect. Contiguously यानी continuously, seamlessly, कोई differentiate नहीं कर पाते हम लोग, है ना? तो inseparable की जो qualities है वो यहाँ पे और ज़्यादा emphasize की जा रही है. That is the idea. Now, C and E have to be together. Next, it is the duty of art to challenge the boundaries of human imagination and broaden perspectives of the populace. So D में हम देख सकते हैं. अभी देखते हैं कि C और E तो हमारे ग्रुप बन गया एटलीस्ट. तो हम लोग देखते हैं आगे कैसे होगा. चैलेंज द बाउंड्रीज ऑफ ह्यूमन इमेजिनेशन. दोनों जगह पे स्ट्रगल की बात की है, ठीक है, बी और ए और सी में, ठीक है. तो मे बी सी के पहले ए आ सकता है, ठीक है, बिकॉज देयर इज अ कंटिन्यूअस लाइन दैट यू कैन ड्रॉ फ्रॉम दिस. तो हम ए एक बार देख लेते हैं साइड में रख के सी के. विदाउट दिस स्ट्रगल बिटवीन आर्ट एंड रियलिटी, व्हाट शुड बी एंड व्हाट इज, progress cannot be expected. Precisely because of this struggle. So these two bond over that. So A, C, E is one thing that we get. Now let's find out what happens with B and D. Are they related or not? If we take a look here. Okay, fine. Elusive, the meaning of elusive is something that will keep eluding you. Okay. Okay, so when we come here, while philosophy ponders upon the elusive aspects of mankind and society, art brings them to life and presents a picture of truth. while philosophy ponders upon the elusive aspects of mankind and society, art brings them to life and presents the picture of truth. So B is comparing between art and philosophy. So this can very well be a closing statement for us, because if you take a look at D is talking about challenging boundary of human imagination and perspective of populace. So it seems that the struggle between art and reality, human imagination and broadened perspectives of populace, because they're only looking at reality, not about imagination. So D, A, C, E, and then B, because B rounds up the entire idea. Okay, that is the sequence that we can think of here. Okay, so it feels like D, A, C, E, B should be the right sequence. Next, when we talk about gender-based discriminatory medical practices, a burning topic full of debate and backlash has always been considered as a non-issue. So here now it seems like an opening statement, but we can't be too sure. Okay, पहले हम देखते हैं बाकी का. This has long permeated the medical practices. Permeate किसी चीज के अंदर घुसना, knowledge and treatment to an extent that a female patient is infantilized and her concerns brushed aside quite frequently. So मतलब यहाँ पे statement पे से ऐसा लगता है कि something against women is happening in this particular medical practice, and that must have been mentioned because they are using this. Okay, so this is the opener statement. See, now here the problem is statement is not given here, so sorry about that. So this is basically paradangler. Okay, तो आपको opening statement दिया हुआ है और ending statement दिया हुआ है, आपको बीच के ही statements सही से लगाने. तो इसके बाद क्या आएगा ये हमको ढूंढना है. तो it has been considered a non-issue. ठीक है, तो इससे रिलेटेड यही सेंटिमेंट बताने वाला या एक्सटेंड करने वाला कोई एक टॉपिक आना चाहिए. This reflects in the widespread use of female contraceptives despite reported side effects by around 90%. So they are talking about side effects of something. Okay, female contraceptives. In testing as female discomfort and pain is often dismissed as imaginary and exaggerated. ठीक है, तो मतलब उनका क्या कहना है कि फीमेल कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव्स जब वो यूज कर रहे थे, जब टेस्ट कर रहे थे, तो whatever discomfort and pain females reported, they simply ignored that. See, topics typically associated with female body and their impacts, the mental, physical and social cause thereof, have been expertly swept under the rug for centuries. Okay, topic typically associated with female body parts. Fine. So this seems like an extension of gender-based discriminatory practice. तो यहाँ पे I feel कि one can be followed by C, but एक बार देखते कि whether D is associated. Not only has this led to a deliberate overlooking of females' problems, but discriminatory expectations, despite being considered the weaker sex. And the sixth one says, when contraceptive drugs for males were tested, participants reported similar discomfort was reported. Okay, fine. Okay, ठीक है. So क्या होगा, ये एक एग्जाम्पल है मेल्स का, ये एक फीमेल्स का. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट जेंडर बेस्ड डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी प्रैक्टिस. सो फीमेल्स का एग्जाम्पल मोस्टली इसके पहले आएगा. ठीक है, दिस considered a non-issue, are swept under the rug, deliberate overlooking of females' problem and discriminatory expectations. ठीक है, आई थिंक कि ये जो है, दिस हैज लॉन्ग परमिटेड मेडिकल प्रैक्टिसेस, यहाँ पे वो क्या बोल रहे हैं कि स्वेप्ट अंडर द रग, यानी फिर देयर इज नॉट इनफ इंफॉर्मेशन, इंफॉर्मेशन इज हिडन. तो नॉलेज एंड ट्रीटमेंट कैन बी हिडन बेसिकली. Knowledge and treatment is not serving properly. तो if you see D, क्योंकि नॉलेज एंड ट्रीटमेंट के इश्यूज हैं, इसीलिए जो फीमेल्स के प्रॉब्लम्स है उसको बराबर से ट्रीट नहीं करते आ रहे हैं. तो बेसिकली A and D form a group and gender-based discriminatory medical practices and topics associated with female body and their impacts. ठीक है. तो before you talk about A, you have to talk about C. So the correct sequence should be C A D B. When you read it all together, it will make much more sense. So B is an example. ठीक है, तो they're ending with two examples. They're talking about one particular issue. They're talking, they are expanding on that idea of how exactly that is happening, and then they are moving on to talk about impacts, and they are summing up with examples. Okay, impacts, examples, issues. So ये है idea. Okay. Next, so the correct answer should be 1 and 6 के बीच में. The correct sequence is C A D B. Now let's discuss about some odd man out questions. Please read question 8. Try to identify the common theme and tell me what you feel is odd. So when we take a look at this particular question, we understand that the common theme allows us to simply pick out what is not associated with it. So let's see. As per studies, to allow a stable population, replacement rates should be around this much. So they are talking about replacement rates, okay? From the low replacement rate of this much, it has declared yet lower rate of this much. It, now who has declared? So either we find that or this is the odd one out. Okay. First one could also be odd, depending on the rest of the context we'll get to understand. Why couples are refraining from having children is debatable, but it is definitely not a complete mystery. Okay. South Korea has recently broken its own record of low birth rate. Replacement rate indicates the number of children that should be born to replace their parents. So here they are talking about replacement rate. Here they are talking about what should be the replacement rate. Okay. B seems like this is what South Korea has declared. So it seems like if we want to rearrange this, E is giving an idea. Okay. As per studies, to allow a stable population, it should be this much. So basically, this is just giving a general stat. Then they are talking about maybe D and then B. Sometimes you don't even need to talk about this. So this is not the sequence actually. The sequence should be the news, because it seems like it is they are reporting some kind of news. So D, B, and then they are giving us the description of what exactly is replacement rate and how it should be. So these two groups have to be reversed. ठीक है? आप तो ये कर सकते हो, या तो फिर आपको क्या करना है, आपको बेसिकली सिर्फ ये देखना है कि कॉमन थीम कौन सी है. जहां पे आपको कॉमन थीम के बेसिस पे आंसर नहीं मिल रहा है कि क्या ऑर्डर, वहां पे ही आपको लूपिंग लगाना है. ठीक है. So correct answer should be C, because nobody is bothered about why people are not having children. It's more about replacement rate. Okay. Please solve the next question. Okay. However, first ही देख के हम cancel कर सकते हैं. However, though the resources at their disposals have increased, the stresses, aspirations, and ambitions these individuals have play a significant role in their health. The individualistic tendency of modern generation is the responsible factor for such a dire state. Such a dire state. We don't know which. What are they talking about? C. The youth today is struggling with many physical and mental health issues and generally sub-optimum state of overall health. Maybe they are talking about this. Okay, so this could be one opener for this particular paragraph. It seems somewhat connected, but everything has to connect with each other. So let's keep looking for the other sentences also. Combining them with nutrition, poor food and destructive lifestyle habits, no wonder the youth is at a risk of early onset of age-related disease way earlier than seen before. Okay, combining what? Maybe these issues, we don't know. So let's check out E. This is despite the fact that most youngsters have better opportunities and resources as compared to their previous generation. So A and E seem to be somewhat related to each other. They are talking about something similar, but none of them are the openers because यहाँ पे this है, यहाँ पे however है, तो ये opener नहीं हो सकता. C seems like a very good winner for opener. If we take a look at it, the common theme seems to be youth today and the issues that the youth today is facing. So I think most statements are related to discussing the issues. And if we take a look at this, C can be the opener. The youth today is struggling with many physical and mental health and a generally suboptimum state of overall health. Though the resources have increased, significant individuals' aspirations and ambitions, these individuals have played a significant role in their health. Okay, so in individuals की जो in individuals के पास ambitions, stresses वगैरह हैं, वो ज़्यादा बड़ा रोल प्ले करते हैं इनकी हेल्थ में. तो मे बी यहाँ पे ओवरऑल हेल्थ के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे, लेकिन however is not getting justified. So C के बाद A नहीं आएगा. Maybe there will be some common linkage, and only then we can talk about that. E seems like something that can come before A. So we'll just put it there and see. C, E, A, and here they're talking about health, nutrition, poor food, destructive lifestyles, habits. So B can go after this. Combining them. Combining what? Combining the stresses, aspirations, ambitions. Plural word चाहिए ना हमको, plural subject चाहिए. तो यहाँ पे this seems to be the case. Okay, fine. So C, E, A, D seem like they form a paragraph, and B could be related, but it seems like it could be a part of a larger article where B is forming a part of solutions, maybe, or like analysis of something. So B is not the B is the one that is odd. Please solve this question. You can pause the video here. Now, if we take a look at this particular paragraph, as opposed to it, selflessness is put on pedestal and applauded. So basically something that is opposite to selflessness has to come before this. Okay. For its supposed cost to the one involved and benefits involved to anyone else. B, if nothing else, the one who's supposedly selfish ends up winning accolades and maybe some personal satisfaction for being morally superior. Okay. I think this should be selfless. Moving on. Interestingly, everyone wishes that others were more selfless while not feeling any such remorse for their own conduct. Okay. Selfishness is often vilified as the cause of all greed and pain, and hence an abomination in general. Okay. Even so, one cannot help. Maybe we don't have to correct this also. Let's take a look at it. थोड़ा सा आराम से देखते हैं इसको. ठीक है. Even so, one cannot help but doubt if any act can be truly selfless and applause worthy to the extent it is glorified. ठीक है. यहाँ पे selflessness के idea के बारे में वो लोग continue कर रहे हैं. यहाँ पे between selfishness and selflessness, it is always a moral compulsion to choose selflessness. अभी देखो यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? They are talking about selflessness. यहाँ पे they are talking about selfishness. Okay. यहाँ पे they are talking about. I'll just change this, I think, if nothing else. Morally superior है, तो it doesn't make sense. It should be selfless. ठीक है, selflessness. So please cancel this and retry. You can pause it here. You can retry. ठीक है. So let's continue. One cannot doubt if any act can be truly selfless and applause worthy. तो यहाँ पे वो क्या बोल रहे हैं, सेल्फलेसनेस को हम हमेशा चूज करते हैं, ठीक है। फिर वहां पे सेग्रीगेशन हो रहा है, देखो सेल्फिशनेस इज ऑफन विलिफाइड and hence an abomination in general, so they are also going to maybe as opposed to this, yes, here we find it. So selflessness and selflessness ke opposite selfishness. So first they are mentioning this, then they are mentioning this. So the sequence should be FDA, right? The sequence should be FDA, and let's see what does not belong. Even so, one cannot help but doubt if any act can be truly okay, selfless and applause worthy. If nothing else, हाँ ये selfless ही होना चाहिए वर्ड. One who is selfless ends up winning accolades. तो कुछ ना कुछ तो फायदा हो ही रहा है भाई, ऐसा इनको कहना. तो ये E और B ये साथ में ग्रुप बनाते हैं, FDA एक साथ में ग्रुप बनाता है. अगर हम इनको ऐसे अटैच कर ले, क्योंकि F से स्टार्टिंग हमें लग रही है मोस्ट लाइकली, तो it makes a proper paragraph. So let's take a look at C. Interestingly, everyone wishes that others were more selfless while not feeling any such remorse for their own conduct. अब एवरीवन के यहाँ भी कोई बात नहीं आई है, यहाँ पे सिर्फ एक, अगर आप देखो तो सेल्फिशनेस एंड सेल्फलेसनेस के बीच में टसल चल रहा है, ठीक है. सो दैट इज व्हाट वी हैव टू लुक फॉर. तो यहाँ पे कॉमन थिंग इज बेसिकली सेग्रीगेटिंग बिटवीन सेल्फिशनेस एंड सेल्फलेसनेस. दूसरों का क्या कहना है, ये एस्पेक्ट इससे मे बी रिलेटेड होगा अगर ये बड़े आर्टिकल का पार्ट होगा कहीं और किसी और पैराग्राफ से उठाया गया होगा, ठीक है. सो दैट इज द आइडिया.